All right. How does it sound to you guys?
Sounds real good.
All right. And all right. And you are a 1? So 2s, would you raise your hands? Oh, you are a 2. So 1s, raise your hands, please. All right. And whenever you're ready.
Okay. Had a great trip recently. I went to the Homestead Springs where they have nice rivers. And then you just float down the river, and it's in a very natural area. So when you first get there, you see all sorts of beautiful birds. And it's very beautiful. Because you can only go through that area. In the canoe, you can't get out. But now, about a half mile later, you can jump out of the canoe into the water. And then it's just very clear and very deep. And you can look around and see all these great things. For instance, we saw 3 manatees. And you get out of the canoe, and you can put, reach down low enough, you can touch them, and they all rough you. His head yawning. And toward the end of the canoe ride, we ran into Dave, who owns the place. And Dave says, you'll never guess what happened. You know how people let go of their pets sometimes when they get tired of taking care of them? He says, there's a 15-foot ballooning is a great sport. How many of you tried it? Anybody? Well, it's a very beautiful sport because the fabric in the balloon, called the envelope, is often multicolored in all different patterns. There might be rainbow patterns, flowers. Sometimes they have faces. If they're knocking Forbes, you might have one that says, like your chateau. Now, to do the sport, you need the gondola, which is the basket, and then you need the gas, which makes a tremendous sound when you turn it on. You light it, turn it on, and it comes up. And if you have long hair, you really need to wear your back, otherwise it will go up and down. And on one trip that we had, we have an old horn that sounds like the one that Harpo Marx used to use. And we were in a field of cows, so we hummed to let the cows know. Hello, and instead they stampeded. Welcome, everybody. I think I've really enjoyed telling you about one of my favorite people, who also happens to be my favorite artist. So I know fairly well, my husband, Roger Bansimer. And his publisher asked him about 2 years ago to do a book on lighthouses. Got in our car, hooked up our 12-foot boat, which is a tiny boat. If you're going out in the ocean, this is a tiny boat. And we had our little tiny motor and the usual camera equipment and so forth. So we headed out, and we went along the coast. We went through Florida, and we went to South Carolina, Georgia, North Carolina, and we had a fairly good idea where most of the lighthouses were, but not all of them. So we had a number of interesting adventures, and I'll just tell you about a couple of them. One time we were close to a lighthouse, and we couldn't find anyone who'd actually ever been to it. We couldn't find anyone who could tell us how to get there. And so we thought, well, the heck with it. It's getting late. If we don't just get in and try, we're going to lose all the daylight, and we'll have to stay another 24 hours. This is something about my husband who likes to get as many lighthouses in that day as possible. So we got in the tiny boat. We got the map out, which is totally worthless because we're in a tidal freeze, and as the tide comes up, then you lose your marshes, and all of your markings which tell you where you are. So we're going out, and also then the fog comes in, and we have no idea where we're going, and we're hoping that the lighthouse actually works and has a light so that we can see it. And we're just about to give up, and the mosquitoes are biting, and we're squatting, and other things, whatever. We finally see the light, and we think, thank goodness we're close. Well, not only were we close, but we were right there. There was so much fog. So we pull our boat up, and then almost as soon as we pull up, the fog clears. And a man, a very gruff man, comes running down to us and says, what is your business here? And I said, well, we're going to look on lighthouses, and we have a very nice lighthouse here. We'd like to take some photographs of that on you. And he said, well, okay, but this is a penal colony. He says, you'll have to disable your boat. So pull out the spark plug. So my husband said, that's fine, and I'm thinking, let's see now, if there are lots of criminal men, so I'm on an island with all these men, and I'm thinking, well, I'm going to look as rough as possible. I get out my huge sun hat, I got the sunglasses on, I get a jacket on, and let me carry on camera. So we go around, we take pictures, do our business, and so then we leave, and then we have, of course, just enough time before sunset to get to the next island and photograph the next lighthouse. So we pull the boat up, and it was very, very muddy. Now, at this point, I haven't had rain in quite a few years. I said, Raj, you know, you're going to have to carry me because it's too much. So my husband says, sure, hop on. No problem. And so he's carrying me, and then finally he gets to the point where we can put me down. He says, wait just a minute. And he looks around, he picks up a big stick, and then he starts going like this. He's going like, oh my God, come on now. What do you mean, come on now? You're beating the ground with a stick. What's happening? And he said, well, you know, this is rattlesnake country.
I'm not coming back.
So we're beating with a stick, and once again I got my macho stance because I know rattlesnakes will be scared. We get to a clearing, and at that point, then there's some very strange hoof marks in the mud. I have never seen any hoof marks quite like this. I know it's not a horse, I know it's not a pig, I know it's not a dog, I know it's not a raccoon. And then I hear rustling, and then all of a sudden, a little louder, and it's ghosts. It's And after they pass, we gingerly step our way over to the lighthouse, take some photographs, and voila, mission is done. And we did get a little lost on the way home. We had to resort to our last package of cheese crackers. We had to ask a few fishermen, which said, you know, this way, that way, and finally we made it home. Just at dark, so we were very pleased. Perhaps you have a question about our adventure? Any comments on that?